So this week you voted for a very specific topic. You wanted me to discuss the recession and kind of what I'm doing with the recession, how I'm prepping for it, and possibly give you some tips and tricks for you. At least that's how I approached it on Instagram. That's where I put my poll to ask you what type of topics you want me to cover. And this was the winning topic. Now, I've been kind of racking my brain all week trying to figure out what the heck to talk about because to be honest with you, I haven't had very strong feelings about this recession. And I don't mean like what's going on in the world because let's be honest, it is falling apart. I just mean in terms of the recession and how it's impacting my pocket. If you're not caught up, I left my full-time job this month actually to pursue content creation full-time and to transition into a different role because I really wasn't happy with the company I was at and also the role I was working. But this would not be a very good time to leave your full-time job, right? Especially since the recession is coming and we're supposed to be tightening things up. However, I wouldn't have taken the risk if I didn't think it was going to pay out or if I was going to be at least able to make the same amount of money as I did at my full-time job. And in fact, this year I'm on track to make 3 times as much as I did at my full-time job. So for me, it was absolutely worth this risk. But the way this ties into the recession is that I haven't felt the recession just yet. And this is also because we've always lived within our means with my husband. Last year, we were a lot tighter with our budget, and this is because we were paying off debt and investing, and we were just trying to figure out our life in general in the United States. And now that we have a little bit more of something to stand on, we kind of know the city we're living at. We like it here. We're feeling more comfortable. Also, we paid off all of our debt. We've invested a little bit more. And so now we're like, okay, well, should we be just as tight with our budget or can we also live a little? And because the recession is coming, everybody's telling you, no, don't spend extra money, don't do this, don't do that. However, we're trying to find a nice balance that works for us. For example, with our personal spending, we're still very cautious about what we bring in. And a huge part of that is the fact that we live in a small studio apartment. We cannot buy that many things anyways. But when it comes to business expenses, we're actually giving ourselves the freedom to spend more so that way we can experiment more with content. We're upgrading our tech so we can be better with editing. We're trying to travel more so we can see more of the US. And this could all be done simply because I decided to take a risk and do content creation full time. And I cannot sit back and not do anything with this because now is my opportunity. So whether there's a recession coming or not, to me, it's kind of like it does not matter as long as I'm still obviously not going overboard. But let's talk about how we naturally live because I think that makes a big difference because we're not big spenders in general. For example, we live in a small studio apartment. It's 426 square feet. And even though the rent is what I think quite high for a studio apartment, we could have easily done a 1 bedroom, a 2 bedroom apartment for a bigger price. But we knew that our income was not very stable, so we decided to stay in a studio apartment for this is going to be our third year now, which is absolutely wild. We're also not big shoppers. We don't care about designer brands. We don't buy anything like that. When it comes to clothes, we're really cautious about what we bring into our closets because, like I said, we don't have a lot of space. So we shop very rarely. I guess the one thing we do splurge on is tech, but again, we see it as this is going to help us improve our video quality and video production and just our content in general. So it's worth it. But for like, I don't know, another table, another chair, another linen, another bedding, another towel. Like these are things that we don't just buy because we want them. We buy them if we actually need them. Majority of my makeup is PR. It's gifted to me, so I didn't have to actually pay for it. And when it comes to beauty procedures, I don't do anything. I don't get my nails done. I don't really do my hair. I do get a chop every couple of months. I don't do any facial procedures like Botox, nothing that requires a lot of maintenance. So I'm not worried about us having to make a certain amount to be able to live that type of lifestyle. I guess one thing we do allow ourselves to spend on is food and groceries, but we also don't eat out like almost ever. And by eating out, I mean restaurants, sit down places where you order food. Your bill's usually like $50, $100. We don't really do that unless it's a special occasion or we're traveling somewhere. I would dare say 99.9% of our food is done at home. And this is why we're okay with having a little bit of a higher grocery bill. And so we haven't really had to tighten up anything as much as I thought we would have to. We're just living our regular life that we were living for the past 2.5, 3 years here in the US. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I think we're going to continue living this way up until I don't know, we have some major changes in our income, but that's not happening right now. We're being very careful about how much we're pulling out of the business income. And so when people ask me these questions, I have a really hard time answering them because we're really not changing anything. We're just living the life that we've been living for the past 2, 3 years. And it's difficult because I know a lot of people want tips and tricks, but I don't really have them. My number one tip for you is to always live within your means, below your means, just so you have that space in between the money that's coming in and the money that's going out. That's where you actually feel like you have a place to breathe, because otherwise you will always, always, always be stressed and stretched thin. Now, the part that I really wanted to talk to you about is the fact that I've been feeling slightly guilty. Um, hmm guilty because things have been going really well for me. And I tend to be a type of person that catastrophizes easily in terms of thinking, oh, tomorrow when I wake up, everything will be gone. Everything I've accomplished will no longer be there and I will have to start over. And I've had a really hard time with this lately, but I feel guilty because things are going well for me. And I know a lot of people are struggling in the world. And how do you find a balance with that? How do you find a balance with being proud of yourself for the accomplishments you've accomplished and also respecting the fact that people in the world are really struggling? And so when it comes to the recession, I do my best to live within my means. I don't want to pretend I live some type of lifestyle that I do not. But also the fact that I've accomplished some things, I am okay with spending a little bit of extra money on certain things because we've worked really hard to be in the position where we are now. And that's tough. That's tough to share with other people, and it's tough to talk about sometimes online, especially when my platform started with the fact that I was paying off debt. So I was very conscious about our spending. And I recommend that to people. Like, if you're trying to get out of debt, you're trying to accomplish some type of a financial goal, you have to be very vigilant with your finances by tracking, by spending less, by knowing where your money is going. But when you are out of that, then you have other opportunities and different things that you can think about. And that's how I feel right now. But I'm curious to know how things are for you. Are you tightening up your budget? Are you being more conscious about what you're buying? Are you focused on increasing your income in some way just in case something happens with your job? But I'd love to know how you're approaching it and what you're thinking about. Let me know in the comments so we can at least have like a conversation going and we can understand where people are with this recession. I'm also curious to see how prices will go up. Where are we going to see the biggest difference? Because right now, the biggest line item in our budget is always groceries. And I've noticed it creeping up and up and up. And we've tried to be like conscious about what we're buying, and we're trying to do more at home cooking. So, like, not buying meatballs and making them from scratch, or not buying egg bites and trying to make them from scratch. But other than that, I just don't know how much more we can reduce our grocery bill, especially when we're also focused on eating healthy. And it kind of sucks because these prices are out of control. I mean, for reference, it's just me and my husband, and we spend around $1,000 every single month on groceries and essentials. That is absolutely wild to think about. That is so much money every single month. And yet we have to do it. And not to bring it to the type A personality, but one thing that does help me so much is just tracking my spending and my income every single month. I have a budgeting template. It's linked in my bio if you want to check it out. But in any case, I use it all the time, and I input every single transaction that we have and how much money is coming in, just so I know that we're not going off the rails and we're monitoring ourselves, because it can be so easy to spend money, let's be honest. And hopefully this episode is not too lackluster or too short, because I myself am still learning how to talk more on YouTube because I'm a short form content girly, okay? It's much easier for me, and talking for 30 minutes I feel like it's a lot, but I'm trying to get better at it. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions or anything you'd like me to discuss, and just your overall thoughts on the recession and pricing and what's going on.